Chapter 1540, Sixth Summoner. Shenchenkyo Rishin teamed up with the three Ghost Kings to launch a crazy attack on Zhang Yi and Hua. Just as Zhang Yi saw through it. His ability is summoning. With his own telekinesis, he summoned the legendary 100 ghosts, so he alone is a powerful demon ghost army. But in the process of personal battle, he faced the monster Zhang Yi. The ability setting of Sinluo Wanxiang is that all attacks below the penetration value can be counterattacked. Therefore, even if the four Ypsilons besieged, as long as the strength of the three Ghost Kings could not threaten Zhang Yi, then it would not be of much significance. Facing Shenchenkyo Rishin's Magatama attack, Zhang Yi has adapted to its strength. Even if the opponent has an ability index of 25,000 points or even more, the lethality of his direct attack is not enough to smash the 22,000 points of Zhang Yi's Sinluo Wanxiang, who is good at defense. Therefore, Zhang Yi can not only block the opponent's attack, but even counterattack. The Great Tengu summoned a more powerful thunderstorm, and the Nagami's energy cannon was also charging. Together with the God of the Nest, the three launched a powerful offensive from different directions. Boom! The three powerful energies gathered together, and the entire Edo city shook, and a large area of the buildings were directly destroyed by the storm. After losing its guardian, this huge metropolis was just a forest of reinforced concrete. Wind and thunder surged in the sky, and the dark energy swept everything. But when the dust settled, Zhang Yi and Hua were still floating steadily in the air. The 3,000-dimensional gates around were as stable as Mount Tai, withstanding their joint attack. It's still far from my threshold. After blocking the opponent's new round of attacks, Zhang Yi chose to take the initiative. He stretched out 2 fingers on his right hand, and a huge void vortex emerged behind him. The terrifying void energy gathered at his fingertips and turned into an extremely dark sphere, condensing the power of the void. Zhang Yi has 2 powerful attack methods: attacks with void energy and strangulation by controlling space. In the past, he did not have 2 powerful attack methods in long-range attacks, and he has been trying to make up for this shortcoming. In the end, he came up with the latest move, the star-piercing cannon. As long as the power of the void is compressed to the extreme, it can instantly penetrate the target of ultra-long-range enemies, and the energy loss in the middle can be minimized, avoiding the waste caused by large-scale attacks. Simple and unpretentious, but extremely useful. Star-piercing cannon. After the energy accumulated on his fingertips was almost about to explode, Zhang Yi suddenly aimed it at the God of the Nest in the air and released it. The power of the void followed the orbit specified by the space, and couldn't wait to penetrate the neon legend in black robes. The speed was so fast that it exceeded the capturability of the naked eye. The speed of the God of the Nest reaction was also very fast. The moment the crisis reached him, he directly raised the scepter in his hand in front of him. A huge barrier appeared in front of him. Boom! The star-piercing cannon slammed hard on the barrier, and the power of the void was raging and spreading. The thin barrier was desperately supporting, swaying, and very unstable. With the barrier as the dividing point, the space above the entire Edo castle was divided into 2 worlds. It was as if the world behind Shenchenkyo would be swallowed by the power of the void at any time. On the other hand, the 3 Ghost Kings not far away were directly shaken away because they could not withstand the aftermath of the power of the Guanqing cannon, like a garbage bag. The strength of these 3 Ghost Kings, the highest of which was the Slippery Ghost, was only about 16,000 points. Their ability was still mainly based on single-target attacks, focusing on a strange attack and killing, and they were not good at this kind of attack and defensive supernatural powers. The gap in strength between them and Zhang Yi was as high as 6,000 to 9,000 points. If it weren't for Shenchenkyo attracting Zhang Yi's main firepower in the front, Zhang Yi could even kill them directly. It's not because they are too weak, but in terms of ability attributes, they don't pose much threat to Zhang Yi. On the contrary, if it was a giant beast like Xuanwu with an unsolvable defense, it would give Zhang Yi a headache. For other people, the ability index only represents the strength of the ability. not the absolute combat power. But for Zhang Yi, it will only lower Zhang Yi's real combat power. Because Zhang Yi has almost no shortcomings, he will naturally not leave opportunities for others to take advantage. Shenchen God blocked Zhang Yi's attack, and it also took a lot of energy. After all, a lot of his strength was used to maintain the night parade of 100 demons. He frowned deeply at this time, his eyes full of disbelief. It seemed unimaginable that he would be forced into such a desperate situation by a sixth generation. You know, he is an angel, and Zhang Yi should be a humble ant in front of him. After the end of the world, he was confined in Neon and couldn't imagine that humans had become so powerful in the land where the Dragon Kingdom lived. But at this time, Zhang Yi was also a little surprised. He condensed the strongest force of the attack, but he didn't penetrate the opponent's defense. It looks like there will be a battle next. Zhang Yi frowned. Yang Xinxin's voice came from the shadow space. Brother, we can't win this battle in a short time. But the longer we hold on, the more the balance of victory will tilt towards us.
Zhang
Yi asked curiously, Oh? Xinxin, did you see anything? Yang Xinxin said, The resurrection of the night parade of 100 ghosts consumes the energy of the god of the nest. Therefore, he needs to deal with the attacks of Brother and Huahua at the same time and maintain the huge army of 100 ghosts. As long as Mr. Liang and the others eliminate the ghosts below, the power of the god of the nest will be weakened. Zhang Yi heard that Yang Xinxin made a lot of sense. I won't be afraid of fighting a war of attrition with the other side. Zhang Yi was 1 against 4, and he couldn't win in a short time, but his powerful ability of attack and defense also put the god of the nest into a difficult battle. The terrifying energy in the sky was spreading, and neither side could win quickly for a while. On the ground, the battle seemed even more terrifying, because all kinds of ghosts, in their true bodies, launched a fierce attack on Liang Yu and others with a stronger force than the previous virtual ghost form. Whoosh! 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 Among the ghosts, a huge cat demon with 2 tails and a black vertical pupil mark on its head flew into the air, aimed at Liang Yu and others, and spit out giant fireballs with a diameter of hundreds of meters, like a string of cannons. This is the Nikomata in the legend of Neon Ghost. A giant wheel with a human face and burning flames, Rinrudo, boom. It turned into a combat vehicle and crashed directly into Uncle Yu. Chapter 1547 Ghost. Uncle Yu will not indulge these terrifying ghosts at all. All fears come from lack of vitality, but this problem is not a problem for Uncle Yu at all. He raised his right arm of the mecha, which was equipped with a large-caliber, high-energy particle cannon. Facing the huge flaming wheel, Winrudo, rolling towards him, Uncle Yu directly fired an energy cannon. Boom! The Winrudo was directly knocked out by Uncle Yu. But the hard body itself was not destroyed. The attacks of the cat were bombarded one by Wu Di using the floating cannon. He was shining with bright light all over his body, and the floating cannons with stars were floating around his body, like the evening stars in the night sky. Facing the continuous attack of the artillery fire, he kept pushing out with both hands. Ola 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 olas. The silver floating cannon and the flames of the cat collided with each other, interweaving a gorgeous light rain in the air. Demons and ghosts are still appearing. Suddenly, raindrops fell from the sky. The rain was not heavy, but it was very dense. Without any signs, the very abrupt patter began to fall. In the mud not far away, a small pond was formed. A green creature with a white disc on its head crawled out of the pond. This is a kappa. Bailey Chongqing raised a large black pistol, aimed at the kappa, and shot directly. The origin bullet cut through the sky and directly shattered the plate on its head. This low-level monster screamed, and then had its head shattered, and then turned into a cold corpse and fell in the water. There was no resuscitation, which made everyone feel relieved. If they could continue to revive like in the past, then they would have no chance of winning today. However, although the kappa was dead, it made the surrounding air moist and the ground muddy. In the dark night of drizzling rain, a cyan light suddenly appeared, staggering towards this side. Deng Shintong locked it with the intelligence system. This is a guy with an extremely strange appearance. He is wearing a monk's robe, but he has an old umbrella without a handle on his head, which covers the whole person tightly. He holds a green lantern in his hand, which flickers with a ghostly light in the dark night. The little monk who is falling in the rain.
Io.
He babbled, as if singing an ancient ballad, distant and strange, and like the ghost of a woman who died because of love murder. After the song came, everyone's mind fell into a trance, and the scene in front of them was instantly distorted. Not good. It's an illusion. Deng Shintong realized this problem at the first time. The ability of the little monk who is falling in the rain can initiate group hypnosis. He raised a sneer at the corner of his mouth, opened his arms without hesitation, and a vast and bright light burst out from his body. In an instant, on this dark, rainy night, it was like a 1,000,000-watt lamp appeared on the earth. Praise to light. The extreme light dispelled the darkness of the night, and also dispelled the blue lights of the monk Yuzhang, leaving only endless white in sight. If there is any disadvantage to this move, it is probably that it is an indiscriminate attack ability. Liang Yu and others can't see anything. And facing those revived ghosts, infrared rays have no effect, not to mention that it is still raining at this time. After letting everyone regain their consciousness, Deng Shintong released his ability and then killed the monk Yuzhang directly. Great Sumeru illusions. He used illusion to fight illusion, and this move was an ability to launch against a single unit. As soon as the illusion came out, the monk Yuzhang's body froze in place, and he was immersed in the illusion that Deng Shintong had set for him. Deng Shintong was still hundreds of meters away from him, and the long sword shot without hesitation. In the sky, a transparent refraction mirror emerged, and Griffith condensed a silver hexagram and stabbed it hard in front, etching the sky. As soon as the sword came out, it reached the front of Yuzhang Shaoxing in an instant. Puff! The umbrella on his head was directly torn apart, and Yuzhang Shaoxing's body was hit hard and flew out. Hee. A white arc suddenly attacked from a distance, pointing directly at Deng Shintong's neck. It was a long snake-like thing, but at the end was a woman's head with disheveled hair. Fitumen. She opened her mouth wide, her face full of sharp fangs, and this bite seemed to want to bite Deng Shintong's head off firmly. Deng Shintong had no time to dodge at this moment, so he simply turned on his defense ability. Sacred Body Blessing. Silver light shone all over his body, as if he was coated with a layer of silver protective film, making him look radiant. In a flash, Fitumen's ferocious big mouth had already bitten up. Crack. The mouth full of fangs bit Deng Shintong's neck fiercely. But the imagined scene of blood splattering did not happen. Deng Shintong's seemingly thin but actually extremely strong holy body blocked her attack. Deng Shintong clenched his left fist and punched Fei Two-Man's chin hard. With one punch, the head flew out. Fei Two-Man screamed, and his head shrank back like a spring, flying hundreds of meters away and landing on a woman in a white cheongsam. On the other side, Liang Yu also met an opponent. A one-eyed monk walked out of the rain, more than 2 feet tall, with a green body, as if he was a corpse that had been dead for a long time. His muscles were bulging, and he held a black iron rod in his right hand, staring at Liang Yu angrily. In another direction, a hunched monk slowly walked over. He was wearing a gray monk's robe, and his body was strangely hunched, forming a 90-degree arc. When I saw his face clearly, I realized that it was not a human, but a monster with a rat's head. He held a string of iron in his hand, raised his head and looked at Liang Yu, only curled up the corners of his mouth, revealing an extremely creepy smile. Playing tricks. Liang Yu frowned coldly, then directly pulled out Longming. No matter what you are, I will kill them all today. After she finished speaking, she strode out without hesitation. The blade in her hand was like lightning, mixed with blue thoughts and slashed down. There were many ghosts in the distance, and more ghosts gathered, surrounding the entire undead mountain. Fatty Sue stood in the crowd. At this time, there was no back, because ghosts were attacking from all directions. "Brother, brother." A woman's voice rang in his ears. Chapter 1548 Ice Storm. Suddenly, a cold voice rang in his ears, but it was also a bit of feigned tenderness. Fatty Sue swallowed subconsciously and then looked around to find the source of the voice. In the rainy night, a woman in a white kimono slowly floated over. She had long white hair, and wherever she passed, frost condensed in the surrounding space, and the temperature of the air dropped a lot. Neon Ghost Snow Girl. "Brother, brother." The snow girl forced a cold smile on her face and then stretched out her pale and slender hand to Fatty Sue. "Can you give me your head?" Fatty Sue was originally immersed in the beauty of the snow girl, and he jumped up after hearing this. "Of course not. No matter how beautiful you are, you can't kill me." He took a deep breath and began to concentrate. The boss said that ice and snow aliens are blessed in extremely cold end of the world. As long as I think carefully and develop my own abilities, I will become very powerful. He stretched out his hands, and the power of frost began to condense in his hands. Frost can defend like a city wall. Frost can attack like a sharp blade. Frost can turn into flying snow and freeze. Frost can do everything in this world. He condensed his abilities, and the deep blue light gathered into a prismatic spike in his palm. Colder, sharper, and more powerful. Ice will storm. In an instant, an ice spike suddenly burst out from his palm, turning into ice spikes that shot out violently. In just a moment, the entire space around was completely shrouded. The ice spikes were denser than a rainstorm, like a large net covering all the ghosts in front. Seeing this, the snow girl frowned and opened her mouth to let out a hideous roar that was very inconsistent with her appearance. Ah! Snow flew all over her body, and the cold wave rushed towards Fatty Sue. But in the snowstorm, Fatty Sue's spikes still broke through the defense, passed through her snowstorm, and fell like a rain of arrows. Puff, 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 puff. The body of the snow girl was pierced with blood holes one after another. So far, Fatty Sue finally exerted the combat power that a deputy captain-level alien should have, and successfully killed a ghost in seconds. However, this is just the beginning. Fatty Sue had no time to get excited, and his panting body had to adjust to the state as soon as possible. Because in the distance, a black shadow like a hill was approaching the side with a boom and boom step. In the sky, Zhang Yi and Huahua faced 4 Ypsilons and fought without losing the wind. For absolute defense, the pressure formed by the increase in the number of opponents will not increase exponentially. On the contrary, the attacks of low-level aliens will be bounced back by him using full counterattack. The only thing that could have some effect on him was the immobilization skill of the Nurerahayan. The Nurerahayan in its physical state could control Zhang Yi and Huahua for 8 seconds at a time. Without a doubt, this was an extremely abnormal ability. If it was a one-on-one battle, he would even have a chance to kill a powerful enemy above his level. Unfortunately, this time, the person he faced was Zhang Yi. Even if Zhang Yi stood still and let him hit him, he couldn't get close. The more the god of the nest of gods fought, the more frightened he became, and the impatience on his face began to become solemn. Boom boom. The thunder in the sky was getting louder and louder. In this endless rainy night, the thunder in the dark clouds was like a silver snake, as if awakening the disobedient people in the world. Yashiki, no Magatama. The god of the nest of gods waved his scepter, and one after another black Magatama fell down in a rotation, like huge flying stars, instantly becoming huge, and crushing in a posture that Zhang Yi couldn't avoid at all. But Zhang Yi's choice was to directly bombard. With his fingers together like swords, the power of the void was compressed into the size of a marble. The unstable void energy instantly burst out from his fingertips, forming the strongest long-range attack that Zhang Yi could achieve now. Star Cannon. Huahua also opened his mouth and launched a joint attack with Zhang Yi. A red high-energy particle cannon condensed in his mouth and then shot towards the sky. The black sword and the red streamer merged into one, rushing straight to the sky and colliding fiercely with the flying star, looking as if a thin piece of wood was supporting the sky. The energy disappeared silently, and the entire Edo castle was almost destroyed because of the battle between the two. There was no trace of any human left in the city below, only large tracts of empty and desolate land. The power of the star cannon was not enough to completely offset the power of the 8-foot Cheong Magatama, but the small amount of power that escaped could be perfectly absorbed by Sun Luo Wanxiang. Then, these powers were dispersed by Zhang Yi evenly, pointing directly at the three ghost kings. Although it was just the power that escaped, the two black chariot-class beasts attacked with all their strength, and the remaining power alone was enough to make the three ghost kings change color. The great Tengu spread his huge wings to protect himself, but was still hit hard and flew away. The dog god opened his claws, and his sharp claws unwillingly wanted to grab at in midair. It was still knocked back along with the sly ghost on it, and rolled hundreds of times in midair before it completely stopped. Zhang Yi took a deep breath and said softly, "It's really not easy to deal with." Unknown to him, Shenchancho Rishin was even more annoyed at this time. "I can't even take down a mere 6th-generation person now." He looked at his hands, and his expression began to become ferocious. A terrifying force began to surge in his body, as if something more terrifying was about to appear. Boom! Above the sky, thunder struck down, like a silver sword splitting the sky in half. Shenchancho Rishin's pupils shrank sharply, and he raised his head and stared at the sky. "Is this warning me? But it's obviously, the time is almost up." This strange expression and neurotic muttering fell into Zhang Yi's ears, making Zhang Yi frown. That guy, what on earth is he doing? Who is he talking to? It's almost time? Zhang Yi touched his chin. Is it really as I thought, that he can't appear in this world for too long? Yes, that should be the case. Otherwise, he wouldn't be the only one who showed up. Kamisancho Origin lowered his head and stared at Zhang Yi. There was actually some jealousy in his eyes. This made Zhang Yi feel puzzled. Kamisancho Origin clenched his fists. But today, I must kill you. He took a deep breath and suddenly turned around to face Nura, Oni, Daitengu, and Inagami. There was a tenderness of nostalgia in his eyes. Goodbye, old friends. Chapter 1549, Dark Star. Zhang Yi stared at the actions of Shenchancho Rishin. The other party's behavior was a bit strange, and Zhang Yi did not dare to make a move casually. After all, according to the current situation, it is not so easy for him to defeat Shenchancho Rishin, whose superpower index is as high as 25,000 points. Shenchancho Rishin whispered and said goodbye to the three ghost kings. Then he suddenly opened his mouth and took a breath. Who? With his actions, a terrifying storm emerged, and gusts of wind blew in the sky. The three ghost kings did not make any movements, but followed this trend and flew towards Shenchancho Rishin. What happened next made Zhang Yi's expression become solemn. Because the three ghost kings, including the huge body of the dog god, were all swallowed by Shenchancho Rishin. Absorb the energy of the three ghost kings and then strengthen yourself. This is a bit difficult. This guy in front of you is more difficult to deal with than before. As the absorption of the three ghost kings was completed, Shenchancho Rishin, whose superpower index was only 25,000 points, surged again. His thin body suddenly swelled up. Originally, it was only the size of an ordinary human, but now it stretched out more than 10 meters. Hiss! The black robe was torn apart, revealing its true appearance. The gray body was covered with fine hair, thick limbs, a slender gray tail, and a narrow and slender head. The body of Shenchancho Rishin turned out to be a rodent. 30 seconds. He stretched out 3 fingers to Zhang Yi. I'll kill you within 30 seconds. Zhang Yi felt a huge crisis coming, but he did not panic. If you want to kill me, then come and try. Shenchancho Rishin raised the scepter in his hand, like waving a teaching stick, and chopped it down fiercely. A terrifying energy rushed to Zhang Yi's dimensional gate like a sharp arrow. Zhang Yi's pupils shrank suddenly, and he saw the scene of the dimensional gate being shattered through, tracing the traces of all things. He swung the sword in the tree without hesitation, and thousands of trees surged towards the sky. Boom! After being infused with a large amount of superpowers by Zhang Yi, the growth speed and scale of the sword in the tree were extremely terrifying. In an instant, thousands of vines 5 or 6 meters thick twisted and coiled together, and then intertwined into an extremely complex shield to block Zhang Yi. The black arrow rushed down, and the tough tree's shield could not even block it for a second, and was penetrated by the black arrow, like a broken bamboo. The terrifying power rushed straight to the dimensional gate, and instantly penetrated more than a dozen dimensional gates. Zhang Yi finally felt the horror of another civilization on the body of the god of production Nash sun god. At this time, its strength was at least close to that of the original prince of Nash Kingdom. This time it's really a bit difficult, Zhang Yi murmured. The god of production Nash sun god stood in the air, like a god, and a black arrow condensed in his palm again. If you weren't afraid of that inexplicable power, you would have died long ago. Don't be so self-righteous, kid. He stared at Zhang Yi, and this attack was going to completely penetrate Zhang Yi's defense. But at this moment, a ray of light came from a distant direction, piercing through the darkness in an instant, and fiercely shot at the head of Shenchenkashenchen. His spell was forcibly interrupted, and even his body was bombarded and flew hundreds of meters to the side. Shenchenkashenchen was stunned. Even Zhang Yi didn't expect that reinforcements would come at this time. They looked into the distance at the same time and saw that in a very far place, a man covered in black armor stood on an iron tower, holding a huge black sniper rifle and aiming at this place. The penetrator, Yasin Canero. Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows. He didn't expect Canero to help at this time. Canero didn't attack him, so he was thankful. Canero's voice came from the communication channel. Colombia can't tolerate the existence of such a terrible thing in Neon. Zhang Yi immediately understood the other party's thoughts. The Neon Islands are the territory controlled by the Colombian Navy. The strength shown by the god of production Nash sun god has seriously threatened their rule, so Canero will certainly not accept this. It is better to cooperate with Zhang Yi and find a way to kill this guy. Then it will be a good thing for both parties. In this world, there are no eternal enemies and friends, only eternal interests. Behind the black sniper rifle, Canero frowned. Although the shot caused damage to the god of production Nash sun god, he was not at ease. His ability, All Things Penetration, can ignore most of the opponent's defense and cause real damage. This is why he can cause damage to the god of production Nash sun god, whose ability index is tens of thousands of points higher than his. However, the prerequisite is that Zhang Yi attracts most of the attention of the god of production Nash sun god. But such a sneak attack opportunity will not always exist. Chaos. All I can do for you is long-range deterrence. If you can't hold on, I will escape as soon as possible. Canero said very cautiously. Zhang Yi smiled. Canero's ability to help has already added a small weight to the scale of victory. Although he cannot influence the situation of the battle, he can at least add a condition for Zhang Yi's victory. However, Canero's appearance holding a sniper rifle, no matter how you look at it, looks very much like Zhang Yi, the assassin during the Qingdao period. Bug. Shen Chenkashin looked at Canero angrily, but the next moment, Zhang Yi's fingertips gathered eternal and immortal dark stars. Star cannon. Here it comes. Shen Chenkashin had to divert his gaze and put most of his attention back on Zhang Yi. Of course, the threat posed by Canero to him is not as great as Zhang Yi. But the opponent's ultra-long-range sniping method that can ignore defense will cause him some damage. So now, he has to split his attention in two places, guarding against Canero while fighting Zhang Yi. Who? In an instant, Shen Chenkashinri attacked again. On the scepter in his hand, a black magatama instantly expanded and formed a huge flying star behind him. The flying star spun at high speed, stirring up the clouds in the sky. Tianjin Dark Star. The huge black magatama turned into a scarlet strange eye in the sky, and the surging power poured down, turning into a rain curtain that completely enveloped the space where Zhang Yi was. This attack completely blocked Zhang Yi's ability to activate Space Shuttle, because as long as he appeared from the dimensional gate, he would be attacked. Then, the huge flying star descended directly towards Zhang Yi. According to this attack method, at most a dozen more times, Zhang Yi's dimensional gate will be completely shattered. At that time, he will no longer have the means to deal with Shen Chankashener's attack. Chapter 1550 True Absolute Defense. At the edge of the distant city, Kanero seized the opportunity and pulled the trigger. The black sniper rifle made a deafening explosion, and a black ray penetrated the void and instantly came to the head of Shen Chankashen. Shen Chankashen had been on guard against his attack, and the scepter in his right hand immediately blocked in front of him. Bang! With one shot, the magic ring on the scepter was shattered. The huge force made Shen Chankashen's body shake a little. Looking at the broken magic ring on the scepter in his hand, he finally realized that Kanero's attack was specifically designed to restrain defensive objects. However, below, Zhang Yi's dimensional gate shattered more than a dozen times in response. Even with Kanero's support, his lethality can still disintegrate the threshold of the dimensional gate. Interesting, this is really interesting. Zhang Yi gritted his teeth. Perhaps because of the crisis at hand, he was calmer in his heart. Go on. He couldn't shuttle through space at this time, so he simply stood where he was and wanted to fight Shen Chankashen. Kanero said to Zhang Yi helplessly, "If you lose, I will ask the headquarters to launch the god of death of love." Is it so cruel? Zhang Yi laughed. You don't understand. Kanero took a deep breath. There are two more like him. Zhang Yi has never seen the Three Pillars god in person, but Kanero knew about their existence a year ago. This is why the Columbia headquarters must take action. A god of the nest has such terrifying strength. Once the Three Pillars attack at the same time one day, the entire Columbia Ocean Fleet will be easily destroyed by them. But after Zhang Yi heard this, a flash of inspiration suddenly flashed in his mind. There were three of them, right? Yes. Do you feel the pressure now?
Kanero said.
No. Zhang Yi shook his head. It makes me feel extremely relaxed. He actually smiled, which was the pleasure of seeing hope. Kanero was stunned for a moment, and then continued to aim at the god of the nest, and complained in his heart, "This guy, probably crazy." Shen Chankashenri god temporarily ignored Kanero. As long as he killed Zhang Yi, it would be much easier to kill the alien who was sniping from a distance. However, Kanero's presence reduced the power of his attack by 3 points, which also bought Zhang Yi a lot of time. He waved his scepter, and layer after layer of attacks came like a tide, constantly eroding Zhang Yi's alien space. Zhang Yi and Hua tried their best to resist this force. However, Shen Chankashenri god was too powerful at this time. The three Ypsilons joined forces, but only slowed down the speed of his breaking through the dimensional door. Voila, dash. More than a dozen dimensional doors were broken, and Zhang Yi's door had been destroyed in half. If this continued, it would not last for half a minute. But Zhang Yi looked around, as if he was looking for something. What on earth is that? The existence they fear. From Shen Chankashenri god's attack, Zhang Yi felt that he was racing against time. He was no longer as calm as he was at the beginning. The attacks of the god of the nest of gods were continuous like a rainstorm, and Zhang Yi's dimensional gates were broken one after another, shattering like thin and brittle glass. In less than 3 seconds, more than 2,000 of the 3,000 dimensional gates had been destroyed. If the destruction continued, Zhang Yi's spatial ability would be completely destroyed. I can't let you completely destroy me. At least, I have to keep a backup plan. Zhang Yi looked up at the sky, and a strange smile suddenly appeared at the corner of his mouth. I have been awarded the title of Absolute Defense for a long time. There is no absolutely unbreakable defense in the world, and other people gave me this title just as a symbolic meaning. But no one knows that I do have an absolutely unsolvable defense method. Just as the god of the nest of gods waved his scepter again, trying to smash Zhang Yi's dimensional gate, he suddenly gathered the dimensional gates around him. Then, a huge door appeared behind him. Zhang Yi took a step back and stepped into the door. The huge door closed quickly like a zipper, and then Zhang Yi disappeared completely in the air without leaving a ripple. Zhang Yi's real ability is to open an independent space that does not exist in this big space. He can open the door to the space. In the past, he used this ability as a defense and displacement skill. But in fact, it is just a simple passage. Now, Zhang Yi entered the space, and then he closed the passage. From now on, he will no longer be in this world. No matter how strong your power is, you can't kill creatures that don't exist in this world. If there is a flaw, it is probably that Zhang Yi's hiding time is limited. The difference in the speed of time will cause him to spend decades in it. Even if it's just in there, if you stay in the space for 1 minute, you will experience the feeling that your body is unable to move, but your mind is clear, and you have spent a long time. In order to develop this ability, Zhang Yi has conducted extremely crazy special training on himself. However, up to now, the maximum time he can hide in the alien space is only 2.5 minutes. But for the current situation, it is enough. The sudden loss of the target made Shen stunned. That guy, where did he run to? He looked left and right, but even if he shuttled through space, he would not completely eliminate his traces. But now, Zhang Yi has indeed disappeared. He completely disappeared in the empty space at an altitude of tens of thousands of meters. This must be a trick, right? Brat, don't try to fool me. Shen raised the scepter in his hand high, and the 8-foot-long jade suddenly burst out, and the black flying stars swept wildly in all directions. The huge flying stars covered the entire Edo castle. The surging energy made Canero pale with fear. The battle armor increased to the maximum power and took him to evacuate quickly. Fortunately, Shenchancho Rishin was not targeting him, otherwise, he would probably have to die here. Chaos, chaos. Canero tried to contact Zhang Yi, but the system responded, signal interrupted. This made Canero dumbfounded. No, brother, I came here to help you. Where are you? Canero's nose was almost crooked with anger. He didn't know that Zhang Yi was actually still in the same place, but in another world separated from the real world by only a thin space barrier. Shenchancho Rishin was really crazy. The attack failed, and Zhang Yi completely lost his trace, making him feel that he was fooled by a weak 6th-generation man. Damn it!